All right, Marcus.
Good afternoon and welcome back. This is US Home Talk. We are live every Wednesday at noon and on demand at ushometalk.com and everywhere you find your podcasts. We are your hosts, Marcus Walgrave, South Dakota Home Team, powered by Hague Realtors, Mike Overson, Luminate Home Loans, and Jason Walgrave Real Estate Group, and the Minnesota Real Estate Team at Remax Advantage Plus. We're going to be taking all you guys' questions here today. Anything and everything real estate. The call-in number is 612-234-7585. Feel free to leave a comment in the section. The comment section is on Facebook. And we'll also be answering questions that were emailed to us and calls that we received on our real estate hotline throughout the week too. So I'm excited. Welcome back, guys. How are you doing today?
Doing fantastic. You know, after the big rainstorm yesterday, the middle of winter, but yet we had a rainstorm. The streets were flooding, houses were floating away. I saw Dorothy. Or maybe that was a tornado that took her away. I don't know.
Is it North Dakota? North Dakota? Don't they got a blizzard warning going on right now?
Yep, 17 feet of snow they're supposed to get the next 24 hours.
Oh, that's it? Oh, that's not that bad.
Light one.
We were fortunate enough to get just the rain here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, but on the northeast part of the state, they were blizzard. They were kind of blizzard warning all yesterday, and I haven't seen how much snow they end up getting. But I was kind of watching the map, and I tell you what, there was definitely a whole lot of rain, and there looked like there's some big cells that were pushing through Minnesota. So, how much rain you guys got?
I mean, it rained for 8 hours. It seemed like it was a lot of rain.
Yeah, it was never raining hard, but man, it just kept going all day.
I mean, I'm pretty sure we got right around an inch of rain, which, what do they say? An inch of rain equals how much in snow?
I think it's 12, isn't it?
There it is. An inch of rain equals a foot of snow.
1/10 of rain is an inch of snow.
Yeah. So, yeah. So if we would have been cold enough to snow, we would have got a foot of snow yesterday, boys.
My kids were very disappointed that it was raining and not snowing. So I said, "Dad, we don't like this rain."
My kids are young enough to where they see rain and they just think summer. They think summer, they think spring, leaves and flowers, and they get all excited, green grass, and they get pretty pumped up. But
see, they haven't experienced the value of a good snow day, right? Like,
no, they don't understand it yet.
Like, no school today, snow day today. Like, as a kid, is that not the best feeling in the world? Like,
it was amazing.
It
only happened like 2 or 3 years, but now they get it like 2 or 3 times a month. I think that the kids are different these days.
Well, I start calling my kids snowflake because it seems like they're a little ridiculous. And then when they call school off, I'm like, whatever, snowflake. They called it off for like 2 inches of snow. Really? Come on.
It was slippery, Mike.
Yeah.
Right. No, you're right.
It was too bright out. The sun was too shiny.
From growing up, I remember snow days were awesome until that month came by when they said, if we get another one, we're going to start extending the year and going into summer. And you're like, whoa, bump the brakes.
Right.
Let's get ourselves into school. Don't cut into my summertime.
True story. Very true.
Very fitting, right? Today's show, we're going to be talking about tips to get your home ready for spring. Not necessarily spring market. I know this is a buyer, seller, investor heavy show, but a lot of our content is very valuable for homeowners. And so, people who aren't looking to sell at all, just to take care of, what is most likely your most valuable asset. So we're going to jump into that here on today's show. And one thing that it doesn't really matter what you look for. If you're online searching, how to take care of your property, your home, in a sense, we always talk about winterizing a house, but this is kind of like, what would it be? Springerizing?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what you look up, what you listen to, who you listen to. One of the first things that they talk about are your gutters. you have to make sure your gutters are clean. Now, I understand, especially if you live in a mature neighborhood that has a lot of shade trees. You have a lot of leaves that fall in at the end of fall. That boat may have sailed to get your gutters cleaned. But it is one of the situations where February, the average temperature is increasing in the Midwest. February is warmer than January, and so will March become warmer than February. And so you may have opportunities to check, at the very least, check those gutters, to see if they're clogged, if they if they have any obstruction. I sent you guys an email earlier this week, kind of talking about, hey, today's show, and I was just sharing my personal experience here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And I was just saying, God, this feels not necessarily like the real estate market, but just in terms of like what is happening with our weather, our snow accumulation, and spring is literally just around the corner, and it feels a lot like 2019. I don't know if you guys got the same rainstorm that we got, but February brought a lot of snow here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota in 2019. Lots of snow. We ended up getting like 3 big snowstorms. I think one was even considered to be a blizzard. And then what happened was with that amount of snow accumulation, drifting started to pile up around the foundations of homes. And, so what it ended up being is just created this like wall around the foundations of homes. And in the first, I think it was the first or second week in March, we were supposed to get a big snowstorm. They were talking 8 to 10 inches, 12 plus inches, possibly. Then what happened was we just got warm weather. We didn't get any snow. We ended up getting 3 inches of rain. And what happened was there were literally hundreds of homes that had never had water get into their house, water penetration, like through the foundation or egress windows. But that year was unique because that snow that came in February created this wall around the foundation. And when the rain came, if you didn't have your gutters cleaned, it just came right off of the house and fell right by the foundation. All these homes had good grade. And when I talking about grade, we're talking about the elevation from by the foundation to the back of the lot or the side of the lot or the front of the lot. Having that negative grade away from the foundation allows for that water to get away from the foundation, to get away from the home. But this snow blocked it. So, when I saw that we were looking like we were going to get some rain, and we have a ton of snow here in Sioux Falls, and I saw we were going to get some rain in like February, like, you weren't expecting, a half inch of rain or inch in your guys' case in February. Usually that's March, kind of that March weather. But, I saw that and I was like, man, I better go out, look out. I mean, I don't have any mature trees in my neighborhood, so I didn't have to worry about my gutters. But what I did need to go check out were the downspouts and the extensions. I went around, looked at the house, and 2 of them were clear. They're free of any debris or obstruction. But my rear 2, they were exactly what happened in 2019 and for a lot of homeowners in Sioux Falls. About a 3-foot drift just had wrapped around that foundation and had created this wall. So I went out there and I got the shovel and I cleared a path for the extension on the downspout, and I'm sure glad I did. We got, like I said, half inch of rain, and where I shoveled that and it didn't take me long, about a half hour to do the work. And I shoveled that little path, and that water found that little path that I made, and it all funneled right there and took off to the back of my yard. So, we most likely are going to get more snow, right? I think, isn't March our snowiest month that we have?
Typically,
so, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we still have these opportunities to take advantage of some nice warm days. These last 2 weeks have been beautiful. a lot of these low 30s, you can get outside and you can do some work, some exterior work, get your house ready for spring. And, so if you have a lot of snow around your house right now, that might be something that you want to do. Check out those downspouts, those gutters, those extensions. If you have to, get that shovel out and make a path for some future water.
Well, fellas, for the real estate agents here, what about the people that, are looking to build a moat around their house, right? So having that snow build up and having this water, get trapped right next to their house is what they're looking for. What does a moat do for a real estate value, you think?
Well, is that with or without alligators? Is that what's in?
Let's go without now. That's phase 2, right? Let's get the moat built first, and then phase 2 is we'll get the alligators.
I think it depends on how well you like your neighbors. So I mean, if the goal is to keep everybody away, that moat could come in useful, I think. So
right. We joke about that, but it's like, you start getting water intrusion in your basement, a whole slew of things can happen, right? You can get enough water pressure in there where your foundation will start bowing in, and then now you got to get a company out there to, okay, what are we going to do here? They do have ways to like kind of brace and I think anchor out into your yard and kind of pull that back. But I mean, water is just such a big thing when it comes to foundations and basements.
It definitely is. And then there's the insurance side of it. And Evan, would love to hear your thoughts on. So my question would be is if you have a water intrusion from Marcus's example, where it comes in through the windows or comes in from outside, is that typically covered in your homeowner's insurance?
I mean, broadly, the answer is no. There are situations in which it can be. There's so much complexity to how everyone argues the water actually intrudes to a basement and so on. But generally speaking, water from a flood is only covered by flood insurance. And a flood doesn't have to be like, literally, you think of the biblical floods, the rivers overflowing, that kind of thing. It could literally be we got too much rain in too short a time. However, if you do have water come up out of a drain in your basement, whether it's the sump pump drain or the floor drain, if you have water backup coverage, even if that was caused by a rainstorm, generally speaking, that would be covered.
Okay.
So it's one of those things that's important to talk about initially. However, generally speaking, the one of the guys that I work with at my other job spent yesterday dealing with standing water because he lives on the bottom floor of a split level duplex, and he had 2 inches of water in his place, and he lives not even a mile from me, and the actual structural damage there likely is not going to be covered. His personal property, on the other hand, is broad form coverage that it doesn't really care what the peril was. It's damaged by water, and like he's going to be able to get replacement stuff from his renter's policy.
Yeah.
So,
but would that cover like the carpet and sheetrock and stuff in the house?
Sometimes, but probably not. Oftentimes, this is a $1 of mitigation saves you $10 of grief later.
Sure.
And obviously that's hard to do once winter has begun. But yeah, generally speaking, rainwater that goes into the ground first and then ingresses into the basement from outside is considered to be groundwater, and groundwater is considered to be flooding.
Okay. That's good info.
So if it comes in through that egress window, that could possibly be considered to be flooding as well.
Yes.
Interesting. I think the gutter thing is a great point, Marcus, to start off. You especially after the fall, a lot of us, forget to clean out those gutters. They fill up with leaves. We don't think about it. And then it starts snowing. And then the snow melts a little bit, but then freezes. And so, this year, man, we've seen ice dams. Huge ice dams especially if you go to some of the neighborhoods of the older homes. I don't know if I've ever seen them that big, and actually I'm shocked that the gutters remain attached to the house the amount of ice.
True.
That's
True
It
story.
goes right over the edge. I was at a house about a month ago, and he had an ice dam with an icicle that literally just went from the roof to the ground. It was like a
Wow.
1.5 story house, and the icicle just next to the entryway concrete pad. He's got a couple of steps that go up, and it's just 20-ish foot icicle.
good. Can you imagine
Did you want to lick it?
No.
No.
I said, dude, you got to do something about these ice dams. You're gonna have damage.
He should probably get a reduction in his homeowner's insurance, because that could be a safety deal. Because if you're on the second floor, that works like a fireman's pole now. That's like fire starts up there.
Agree.
You hop out, you slide down this icicle, bam,
Slide it out.
you're safe.
Yeah. Discount for sure on insurance.
I'll give that one a pitch. I don't think that's going to work, but
Okay. Well,
Evan, I wish I could remember. I think our first show of the year, if I remember correctly, you threw out a number, like an average cost for a water penetration claim, and it was a significant amount of money. Thousands of dollars.
yeah, not just water penetration, just a straight water backup. Water backs up out of the sump pump drain in a house, let's say. Generally speaking, it's roughly 10% of the house's value. That is, to be clear, in Minnesota, that is basically what I recommend for coverage for water backup, is roughly 10% of the rebuild cost of the house. Which, that's a lot of money. If you're living in an older home and you don't have a finished basement, all that's down there is appliances and things in Tupperware or whatever, your claim numbers will be a little lower than that, but not that much. Because if there's damage, if there's things like, it killed the washing machine and stuff like that, it's a significant claim. And if it's groundwater intrusion, like I said, that's generally not covered unless you have a limited flood rider or buy a flood insurance policy.
And flood insurance is super expensive, right?
Flood insurance it's not that it's super expensive, it's that you have to jump through a lot of hoops. To get federal flood insurance, you have to be in a designated flood area. And then it has a whole bunch of limitations. Flood insurance caps out pretty low. However, there are some companies that offer private flood insurance, and that is very expensive.
Got it. Good stuff.
I think a lot of people, especially up there in the Twin Cities, you guys have so many lakes. Tons and tons, hundreds, thousands of lakes that are surrounding the Twin Cities area. And it seems like, if you do have a lake property, a good portion of that lake is going to be in that federal flood zone. And so I know if you are out there looking for properties like that, maybe you're looking for raw land and you want to build in a flood zone, you can, but you have to build up the elevation to try to get out of it and get that certificate from FEMA, to say, hey, this house, yes, it's near the flood zone, but the elevation is high enough. Here's your elevation certificate to show it and go ahead and move forward. Jason, I know, you got experience with this and but being near a flood zone can affect overall sale down the road too.
Sure. Yeah, it definitely can.
We talk about gutters and downspouts and extensions. Those kind of seem like the no-brainer. Obviously, we can't go back in time. We can't go to the fall and take care of maybe some leaves and things of that nature. But if you do have some ice dams and you might be concerned about it, this might be a good time to just reach out to your roofer that you have. And we had a lot of wind here in the Sioux Falls market here the last 6 to 9 months, so high wind, like 65, 70 mile an hour winds. And so, there's a chance that maybe you had some shingle damage. We had this really nice weather these last couple of weeks. The roofs are clear now, virtually. I mean, 98% of all the roofs are clear of snow. Yeah. So if we went back 3 weeks ago, a roofer would have been, they kind of would have shrugged their shoulder and been like, well, there's nothing really I can go look at. But this could be now a good time to do that. The roofs have melted. A lot of the roofs have melted all the snow, and you can get your roofer out there to take a look at it. And if there is anything that's, like, hey, we can't fix it today, but at the very least, maybe we can put a Band-Aid on it. It's trying to get ahead of the game, being instead of being reactive, being proactive with something like this, and there's a good chance you're going to save a lot of money.
I had a friend of mine a couple weeks ago. He was sharing with me a unique way of getting his ice dams cleared off his roof, and he said he went up there and just poured salt all over it. And I said, really? I said, well, how did that work? He said, well, it worked pretty good. He said, except it, kind of discolored the shingles and the siding a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So when he started the story, I'm like, dude, this is brilliant. I was thinking I'm going to get some salt and I'm going to throw it up on the roof. And however, that's not recommended if you want to keep the same colors that you have on the house.
There are products that do work off of that, though. One I highly recommend that gets sold at like Ace and stuff are that basically they're like softballs of a specific ice melt product, specifically for you to throw up.
Really?
Yeah, exactly. You throw them up above the ice dam and they melt back down and through. I have used them in the past. They worked very good. I don't have ice dam problems anymore after I had my roof re-insulated a few years ago, but it used to be a big deal. Yep. With my big overhangs on this house, I used to have gigantic ice dams. They were kind of like located a couple feet back from the gutter, so it was extra bad. And those things, they worked a charm. You'd throw a couple of them up there and they would melt a nice channel in the ice, and the melt would come right through.
Well, I think you bring up a good point, Evan, and that, that is the question. Why do ice dams occur? And, most of the time it's due to loss of heat from the house because the insulation isn't sufficient. In fact, my boys were just asking me last week, why are all those ice dams up there? I said, well, they don't have the best insulation. So there's the heat that escapes, which melts the snow, which turns into the ice and ice dams. So a way to remedy ice dams is to take a look at the insulation that you have in the attic and make sure it's sufficient enough to prevent heat loss and prevent some ice dams.
The first house I bought, I was in La Crosse, Wisconsin when I was going to school, and
who helped you with the mortgage on that? Some really great loan officer helped you with that loan, didn't he?
Yes, he was really good. Licensed in multiple states. Mortgage Mike. Thank you for that. And there was a house built in the 50s, 60s, and this was kind of a common trend for that maybe demographical group of homeowners, but it was they tacked like a heat wire and zigzagged it down the valley, because I had a valley that ice dammed often, and then in the kitchen there was a little light switch that you could flip the light switch on and it would activate that wire. Now, I know if you ask any roofer about a product like that or a concept like that, a lot of times their response is, well, you're putting holes in your shingles. So yes, I mean, I understand the concept of, heating it up, melting the ice dam, getting the ice dam away. But now you have to be subconscious of, you put holes in the shingles, and even if you sealed it, how fast do those seals shrink, with the extreme, temperature changes from winter to summer, especially on a roof, how hot those shingles get. And so unless you're subconscious about, hey, I need to go up there and I need to check those seals annually, that may not be a good solution. I did see a neighbor here this past summer, or this current winter. They bought one of those, and I've been seeing them on Facebook as well. They're like 2 by 3 foot rubber sheets that you plug in to the outlet, and then you lay it on like your steps to melt the ice on your steps. They'll show like a little puppy, sitting on it, and it's all warm and everything's, snow around them. But, that could be maybe a good option, something where it's not like you're penetrating the shingles with nails or tacks, just something that you can put up there that's, and then you can remove it once you melt it. And it's pretty impressive. I mean, I've seen this neighbor, he's got like 3 to 4 inches of ice that builds up from where it melts in his grass and then it goes over his driveway. So he like just can't keep an ice-free driveway, but he's always throwing out that little pad, and then 2-3 days later he moves the pad and there's a cleared section. So there's definitely some products out there that could be a good fit for you.
Or if you're building a new home, we can just build a heated driveway and sidewalk for you, and then you're good to go. There was an infomercial on at the gym the other day, and I can't remember what it's called. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. It sprays out of a can. And so they're going around this house to like seal all the door jams and the window
Flex
jams.
Seal?
What's it called?
Flex Seal?
Flex seal. I think that's what
Flex
it is.
Seal.
So
Yeah.
they flex sealed all of the windows and doors, and then they gave an illustration of a flood coming up to it, and then it kept all the water out, which is a little comical. But so you can just spray your whole
I
house.
need to see that one.
See what I
Don't
like
mind
to
the
do.
cracks on the foundation that are totally fine.
Take care of all that. Just spray the flood.
There's an interesting conversation to be had there about how we actually build houses over about a huge part of the materials of houses are form over function. We like to think that the way we build houses is very functional and stuff, but no, we're steeped in tradition.
Yeah.
We do it real efficiently and stuff, but some of the choices that we make are just based off of the fact of, well, this is how houses have to look.
Yeah.
When we could make them significantly more robust in many ways, but people don't want to live in houses with concrete floors.
Right.
People don't want to live in houses that have siding that truly is impermeable because it looks like sheer, smooth, glazed walls and things like that. Windows are a great way for all sorts of bad things to happen to your house.
Yes.
But we like the light. So
Like the light.
yeah.
See,
we got a good. Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
I was gonna say, so when we get ice on top of our house, we like to play this little game with the kids. So we send all of our kids up on the roof with a blow dryer, and we see who can melt the most ice off of it before they fall off the roof. Really fun game. Gets them engaged, gets them active, right? Yeah.
Good exercise.
Good exercise, right? Works on their balance.
This is a joke. Don't do
Right. Do not try this at home, folks. Do not try that at home. Anyway, sorry, Marcus, I interrupted you.
No, that's all right. We have a lot of nice old homes here in Sioux Falls, turn of the century, and it's interesting when you kind of talk about how they built homes back in the day. I mean, there's definitely homes in the Sioux Falls area that are 100+ years old, and there's no intention of putting a family room in that basement. They still have dirt floors. Right. The foundation is stacked rock from the local quarry, a pipestone, quartzite type stone, and you go down there though. There's usually only a couple things down there. You have your furnace, and maybe you have some washers and dryers down there, and everything's on blocks. Because it's just accepted that it's going to get wet down there in the spring. There's cracks and areas where water can penetrate, and everything's on blocks. Water heaters on a block, and they just let it get wet down there, and that's just kind of how it is. But to your point, Evan, we've changed that. Homes now, it's people want 9-foot, 10-foot ceilings downstairs. They want full living quarters, maybe even a mother-in-law suite. Keeping in mind of our parents getting older and that idea of saying, hey, our parents might have to move in with us, in 10, 15 years. So we want a full kitchen down there. So now builders, a lot of them have code. It is required here in the Sioux Falls area that you have to install drain tile when you build a new home. That drain tile connects into a sump pump basin. Sump pumps are not required. That's not a required code, but even with like a walkout where the elevation and the grade is very favorable to not have water penetration, they're still required to have drain tile and sump pump basins. And if you do have something like that, it's not expensive to install a sump pump. You got your what is it, a 1/3 horsepower and a 1/2 horsepower. those are the two most common ones that people put in residential homes. And talk about a couple $100 and, boy, could it save you a lot of money if you have it installed.
I always think it's very interesting when you have drain tile and then you have no sump pump. It would be like spending the money to put gutters on your house, but don't put any extensions on any of the gutters. You just have it all drain straight down to the foundation. So, folks, put the sump pump in. It's worth it.
I'm a little embarrassed to say it, but I'm one of those individuals, because I have a walkout house, meaning that when you're in the basement, you can, go outside and get to the backyard. So I convinced myself that the elevation was good enough, that I didn't need it. so I still need to do it. But Sioux Falls, we're in like a radon hot zone. I think if you go on the EPA website and you look up radon, it has a map of the United States, and it lets you know where radon has high elevation readings. And the Sioux Falls area has it. And so one way that our radon mitigation companies get the radon out of homes is they cap that sump pump basin. And then they, have the piping to get out there, and they pull air out of the sump pump basin to get the radon out. And so, I was fortunate enough we have a really good radon mitigation company here in town. He puts a clear, like plexiglass cap on it. Mm-hmm. And then he adds 2 ports where you can unscrew the port and get inside there and check to see what's going on there. So if you do have a sump pump, in your sump pump basin, this is the time to check it. Go in there. It's just like a toilet. All you have to do is push down that little lever to make sure that it works. And do it now before that thing fills up and then you find out that your sump pump doesn't work.
So that explains a lot, Marcus, about a lot of things. The high levels.
I don't know.
High radon levels in Sioux Falls area. That explains a lot.
Yeah, it's Orless. I didn't even know. It's I think Laverne's in the red zone too. So maybe it was from that.
There's 2 people. There's 2 people here. 3 people here. Well, 2. There's 2 people here from the Twin Cities that still have all their hair, and the one from Sioux Falls doesn't.
Hmm.
Is that right?
There's some there.
Interesting.
The reason why I hesitated there is because Evan's up here too. So it's 2 and 2 right now. So I can't swing the needle one way or the other too much. But
the radon's getting to me.
Right. Yeah. So another thing too that I wanted to bring up, we spoke about a lot of exterior stuff and basement stuff. What about our HVAC systems? Mm-hmm. So if you got an air exchanger and you got a whole home humidifier system, everything's got a filter these days. A lot of people probably don't even know that your air exchanger probably has a big filter you got to take out. They probably recommend once every 6 months, but most of us probably haven't checked it for how many years, mm-hmm. right? So that's the other thing too, is if you got a whole home humidifier system in there, you got to adjust that based on the changing temperatures and the changing humidity outside. And then your air exchanger, you got to open that thing up. You got to take those filters out. You got to get those washed. Yeah,
there are filters in there, folks. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that, or they've never checked it, and they're not disposable filters either. You have to clean them.
Yeah, your humidifying system, that has a filter in there too, right? It's a wet filter, but that's got a filter in there too. That's supposed to be changed out. I mean, I'm guilty of it too. Don't get me wrong. The reason why I bring this up is because I literally went down there and I probably hadn't checked the humidifier filter or the air exchanger filter for like 3 years.
Right.
And I went down there and the humidifier filter was like mush, right? Because it was just soaked with water and wet and it wasn't doing anything, right? And then the air exchanger wasn't too bad, so I was probably okay there, but I still took it out and I still, it's like once you wash those things, you see how much crap they actually collect.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you checked that, Mike. I mean, when I think about you, I don't generally think you have a filter at all. So I think that it's good you
house filter.
House filter. I take that as a compliment, Jason. Thank you.
But it's again, trying to get your house prepared for spring. You have your HVAC, your heating and your cooling. I mean, a lot of AC units, I think now they say you should not turn them on or run them until the average temperature is above 55 degrees for whatever it is, 48 hours, 72 hours, something like that. And for a lot of people out there who bought a home here in the last couple of years, or maybe of a friend or family member who bought a home, it was tough for buyers out there. It was tough for them to get their offer accepted. There could have been a good chance that maybe they decided that securing a home for themselves and their family or their investment was number one priority, and they chose to waive that property inspection report. If you did do that, you got to remember, home inspectors don't only work for buyers. They work for sellers who want to get their house pre-inspected before it goes to the market, and they work for homeowners as well. You will never see me on my roof. I'm in my 30s, mid 30s, and I'm sure you could argue the fact that I might be agile enough to get up there, but I'm not going up there. You're not going to see me up there. I'm going to hire somebody, whether it's a roofer or maybe an unbiased party, being a property inspector. I mean, they don't care what they find. They're not going to hold anything back or hold any punches. They're going to report exactly what they see and let me know on it. And I'm gonna pay them and get them up there to make sure that I don't have any issues with my roof.
Yep, me and you both, buddy.
yeah.
I'm going rough.
So that's the thing, when you kind of think about a house, water penetration, top, bottom, probably starts with the roof. Want to make sure that's looking good. Your gutters, your downspouts, your extensions. Take a peek at that foundation. If you got that drain tile, take a peek in your sump pump base and see what's going on in there. Make sure that sump pump works. If it doesn't, again, super cheap to go buy one. In 2019, again, I'm referencing this weather event that we had here in the Sioux Falls market. I'm not making this up. It was hundreds of homes that have never had water penetration before. People who have owned their homes for 20, 30, 40 plus years, never had a drop of water in their house. They had water penetration. By the end of that day, when the water started coming, by the end of that day, you could not find a sump pump to purchase here in Sioux Falls. We have multiple Menards, Home Depots, Lowe's, Ace Hardwares, Fleet Farm. We have everything that you would need to get your hands on a sump pump. But the fact is nobody thought that was going to happen. And people who didn't have sump pumps, that's kind of a way to get it out. You can try to shop vac it, and then walk upstairs or walk out your door, with a 3-4 gallon thing of water and do that hundreds of times. Or you can just simply buy one sump pump, get the hose, and it does the work until the water's gone. So it was gone. But if you were able to be proactive and do that stuff today before an event like that, you're going to be ahead of the game.
Agree. So are you going to go get your sump pump today, Marcus?
No, I don't think I'm going to. I am going to call my radon guy. I am going to call my radon guy and have him come in and put it in. So
perfect.
I don't. When it comes to stuff like that, the amount of cost that is at stake, I'm not going to do it yourself.
You're not going to DIY it?
No, I'm not. I'm going to spend the little extra money.
What? $400? I can do this myself.
And let the professional do it. But yeah, gutters, your HVAC, your foundation, those are all the things that you can kind of, do to make sure you're taking care of your house. If you're thinking about selling in the future, and maybe you do have an older home, one of the nice things to do when it gets to this time of year is to open up your windows. So you want to be able to, that's another good thing that you can do to get your house ready for spring, is just go around the house right now and check your windows, see if they're opening up good, see if you have any, mechanisms that are broken. There's still some supply chain issues going on with building materials. So if you do have a couple cranks that are bad, it's going to be to your advantage to put that order in today, because 3-4 years ago you probably could have went down there and put an order in for parts like that and got them in a week. That may not be the case now. It may take 3-4 weeks and possibly even months. So go ahead and get those windows checked out, and fixing window screens is super easy too. Yeah. So that's another thing you guys can do to make sure everything's going good with your house.
Another thing that just came to my mind too, the dryer vent access coming out of your house. In the wintertime, I mean, how many times have you guys gone and checked that during the winter?
I don't think I've ever checked that.
Okay. Well, that's, you know what I mean? So that's another thing too, because depending on the location, it's probably in the back of your house, or it's on the side somewhere kind of tucked back where you don't really see it come out of your house. And so if it's cold and snowy out and stuff, how often you're going outside and walking around your house and looking at that. So you got a dryer vent that, hopefully is not clogged, right? Hopefully it's still working just fine, but, take a look at that. If you see some fuzz and stuff like that hanging from it, probably want to get up there and look at that and make sure that the dryer vent is open.
Yeah. If there's
that's a fire hazard that can.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Evan, how many fire claims do you do because of dryer vents?
Well, luckily we don't do many fire claims, because fire claims are few and far between, but are very, very, very big, obviously. But dryer vents is one of the main current causes of home fires. Over time, as less and less people smoke, the generalized accidents, like grease fires in the kitchen, dryer vents, things like that, have been creeping up and up as far as the portion of fire claims that they represent.
Interesting. Check those dryer vents. Get them cleaned.
A couple good other tips that you guys can do, again, with this nice weather coming up. Decks, check your decks, your siding. A lot of things that we can't do in terms of siding and paint until the weather warms up. But at least you can add it to your list. Say, hey, next time I get a 3-4 day where it's pretty nice, I'm at the very least going to fill some cracks in the siding or some gaps in the siding and get that caulked up. But stuff like decks, I mean, that's something where if it's nice out, get your hands on some lumber. If you got to replace a couple steps or some handrails, it's a good time to do it, because once it gets nice out, you're going to want to get outside and enjoy it. So
it's good stuff.
I'd say probably one of the last things that you want to do, with getting your home, and I'm saying home, but really, your overall property ready for spring, is to think about your yard. You have, again, you can kind of walk around that foundation and see if you have any low spots by the foundation that you need to bring in some filler dirt, pull the rock back, pull the landscaping tarp back, build that back up. So then if any water does come, it gets away from the foundation. When we're talking about homes, branches from trees, can just do so much damage to your shingles. So if you do have a branch that might just be hanging a little bit and are rubbing on your shingles, that's going to take years and years off of that little area, again, increasing the chance of getting some water penetration on that spot. So think about maybe trimming back some of your tree limbs. I know a lot of the property inspectors that we work with here in the Sioux Falls area, it's recommended that your shrubs are 12 to 18 inches trimmed back from the siding. So, again, we're going to get some really nice days coming up ahead here. And that could be a really good thing to do, is to, get out there, check your bushes, check your trim or your trees, and make sure everything's trimmed up.
Like it.
Guys, you guys got anything else? Any other tips that you want to share about taking care of your house, getting it ready for spring?
I think you just want to take a walk, through the house and around the house, and there's always spring cleanup from everything that occurs during the winter. But keep an eye on what's going on and what happened over the winter. I think that a lot of times home maintenance issues get forgotten because we're all busy and we got all these other things going on. But like Marcus said, your house is your biggest asset, likely your biggest asset, and you want to make sure you're keeping an eye on it. So.
Well, I'm excited for spring. It's I did shovel some of that snow away for those extensions, and underneath that snow, believe it or not, there was some green grass.
Yeah.
So that was pretty exciting. I saw that and I was like, oh, nice, cool. And then I know I read an article or a post a couple weeks ago from the National Weather Service, and we're in a drought here in the Sioux Falls area. Our soil is super dry. Our creeks and our river systems and our streams are below average, below the norm. So we have an overall low risk for flooding here in the Sioux Empire, even though that we have quite a bit of snow. And one of the reasons why they said, that we're low risk is because we don't really have a deep frost. We got early snowfall, and that created a nice little layer of insulation. So our soil down here does not have a lot of frost, which is good. I mean, it's going to allow to absorb the water when it starts melting here this spring, and instead of it just shooting right down into the streets and having street flooding and creeks and rivers and things of that nature. So it was fun. It was good to see. It was good to see the grass. I was like, I can't wait to see, the rest of the snow go and start thinking about getting your mower ready and leaving the grill out permanently and
there you go.
And starting to enjoy some warmer weather.
So Marcus, before we sign off, next week we're going to have Jared Haven on with Credit Life, one of our show partners. And so he's going to be bringing in a lot of great information about financial health and credit improvement. We'll tie in how that affects your mortgages and your home buying process, but we're excited to have Jared on next week during the show.
He's awesome. You're not going to want to miss that. Jared speaks across the country on financial wellness, so he's been in front of 7,500 people at one event, huge event. He's personally coached over 70,000 people through his years on financial wellness, dealing with all that stuff. So you're not going to want to miss that one. He's definitely worth your time to listen to.
And don't forget, guys, if you're looking for any referrals, whether it is financial wealth referral, roofers, siders, painters, whatever it might be, just rely on your real estate professionals. You can always reach out to us as well. You can give us a call, text anytime. Our number is 612-234-7585. So I just want to thank everybody for tuning in live and catching the podcast at a later time. You can always find us anywhere where you find your podcasts. Our website is ushometalk.com. We're here to help with all your real estate needs and your financial needs here in Minnesota, South Dakota, and the entire United States. I'm Marcus Walgrave, Jason Walgrave, and Mike Overson, and Evan Little. And again, thanks for tuning in, and I hope you guys have a great week.
See you guys.